Did you know that the longest recorded war in human history lasted for around 781 years? Yes, you heard that right. It was a war between the Christian kingdoms and the Muslim Moors for establishing control over the Iberian Peninsula. Humans have been fighting wars since the dawn of mankind, especially for obtaining power and wealth. We have seen wars that lasted for months, years, and even decades. Mankind has already witnessed two world wars that lasted for around 5 years each. But this particular war holds a very special place in our history books because this is the shortest war ever fought in human history. How much do you think it lasted for? A year? A month? Or a week for that matter? No, it lasted for a whole 38 minutes. It is kind of difficult to accept that fact, so let us travel back in time, straight to the year 1858. Into the vastness of the Indian Ocean lay the beautiful island of Zanzibar, which was ruled by the Sultans of Oman. Zanzibar was an island country that lay off the coast of Tanganyika, currently forming the part of the Tanzanian region. Sultans took over the island in 1499 when they successfully ruled out the Portuguese. After being under the rule of the Oman Sultanate for over 3 centuries, Sultan Majid bin Said freed the tiny island and made it independent from the Oman Sultanate in the year 1858. Like many countries of the African subcontinent, Zanzibar was also under the eye of some foreign powers, namely the British and the Germans, who were attracted by the trade opportunities on the tiny island. Both the powers stood head to head for gaining control of the Zanzibar town. After the death of Sultan Khalifa in the year 1890, Sultan Ali bin Said ascended the throne. Sultan Ali has always maintained a good relationship with the British, and eventually he declared Zanzibar as the official British protectorate. The accession of Ali saw the signing of the Heligoland-Zanzibar Treaty between the Germany and the Britain, which transferred all the Zanzibari rights to the English. On one side, the British started gaining power on the island, and on the other side, Hamad bin Thuwaini became the next Sultan. Sultan Hamad ruled for over 3 years after passing from a sudden death in the year 1896. Using this as an opportunity, his nephew Khalid Barhash took over the throne without the proper British approval. British weren't that happy with this, as they wanted Hamud Muhammad as their next Sultan for the very simple reason as he was loyal to the English. Nephew Khalid Barhash captured the Sultan's palace and deployed around 3,000 of his men to protect himself and the palace. His men were armed with rifles and muskets, and they aimed a 17th century bronze cannon towards the British ships. Khalid also took the control of HHS Glasgow, a Royal Navy yacht gifted to the Sultan by the British themselves. In response to the Khalid's action, the British started bringing their own forces near the harbour, along with 3 gunboats which were HMS Sparrow, the Thrush and the Philomel, which were anchored along the harbour, ready to answer any unwanted act from the ruler. The British consul at the time, Sir Basil Cave, warned Khalid to take his army back and leave the palace. Khalid turned down all the warnings of the consul and decided to proclaim himself as Sultan by 3 p.m., which he did. The next day, around 10 a.m., a message arrived from Her Majesty's government to take the necessary action to remove Khalid from the power. Cave tried to ease the situation through peaceful talks, but all were turned down by the power-hungry ruler. Cave gave the final ultimatum to Khalid to leave the palace by 9 a.m. the next day, or they will open fire on them. The night with the dead silence passed, and the sun shone. The clock struck 8 in the morning the next day, and Khalid sent a messenger to the cave for negotiation, but British held to their decision. They would only step backwards if Khalid agrees to the terms set by the British. Khalid didn't have any intentions of leaving the palace, forcing the English to take the necessary action. The time given to Khalid by the British to surrender was close. At 8:55 am, the commander in charge of Royal Navy ships signaled his troops for action. The minute clock turned to 9, English ships started firing towards Khalid and his 3,000 troops. The very first shot from the gunboat Thrush destroyed the Arab 12-pounder cannon in possession of Khalid's army. Bullets were flying from across the island, killing several locals and slaves of Khalid's army. Many were killed and some ran for their lives from the continuous shelling of the British troops. Khalid's army, present on the HHS Glasgow, started retaliating against the English, and in return fire, Glasgow was hit badly, resulting in its sinking to the seabed. Khalid's army continued to fight, and finding this as an opportunity, Khalid escaped from the palace with his 40 Arab followers. British stopped shelling at 9:40 am when the palace came under a huge fire. British troops slowly approached the palace and took control of it and eventually the town of Zanzibar. During the war, the town suffered from some serious looting and violence that took over the streets of Zanzibar. British deployed several men guarded with weapons on the streets to stop the violence. Sultan's palace was engulfed in a massive fire which was brought down by the sailors and the order was maintained. Sultan Khalid and his 40 followers were given refuge in a German consulate, and despite the extradition request from the British, the then German consul refused to handle the Sultan to the British. Instead, he was transferred from Zanzibar to Dar es Salaam in German East Africa in a German war vessel. But eventually, he was captured in 1916 by the British and was exiled to Seychelles. At last, British got what they wanted. They brought Sultan Hamoud Muhammad onto the throne, who was loyal to the British and became their key to controlling the government of Zanzibar. After the war ended, no further revolts occurred against the British for the next 67 years. As historians pen down, the British took over the town of Zanzibar in a matter of just 38 minutes, making it the shortest war ever fought in human history. Hey, did you find it interesting? Then stay tuned for more stuff like this in future. And yes, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.